When Earth returned to the galactic scene, it took almost everyone by surprise. For centuries, the galaxy had turned without so much as a whisper about a place called Earth. Most believed it was a myth. Ancient data logs hinted that humans once walked among the stars, but vanished so completely that no empire truly remembered them. As time went on, the major powers, like the Heron hegemony, the Trias Commonwealth, and the Azuri Ascendancy, focused on their own rivalries and forgot all about humans. Then, far from the main trade routes, fresh signals began to pulse. They repeated a simple message for any who cared to listen. Humanity has returned. We come in peace, but we kneel to none. At first, no one took it seriously. Some assumed pirates were playing a prank. Others thought it was a glitch from an ancient beacon. But the signals persisted, crisp and steady. Leaders across the galaxy slowly came to realize that a new player, or perhaps an old one, had stepped onto the stage. The Trias Commonwealth was the first to investigate. Their style was measured. They sent both warships and diplomats, preparing for anything. If this was an uncharted species with advanced technology, Trias wanted to open trade. If it was a threat, Trias would protect itself. Meanwhile, the Heron hegemony looked at the phrase "kneel to none" and took it as an insult. The Herons were proud, martial, and saw potential rivals everywhere. They began shifting fleets toward their borders, ready for a show of force. The Azuri Ascendancy, quietly adept at espionage, sent stealth probes to locate the source of those signals. Weeks passed. The Trias scouting group arrived in a lonely star system that held few points of interest. Or, so they thought. One exception stood out: a wide ring-shaped station orbiting a dull gray planet. It gave off unusual energy readings. As the Trias flotilla approached, they picked up a calm broadcast in standard galactic speech. "Welcome, Trias Commonwealth. This is Gateway Station of the United Earth Confederation. Dock if you come in peace." The Trias ships exchanged puzzled looks. No one had heard of the United Earth Confederation. Yet, the message sounded clear. Trias sent a shuttle to the station. On board were a few diplomats and cautious soldiers. Upon disembarking, they found tall, bipedal beings waiting with calm smiles. These beings identified themselves as humans. They showed little fear of the Trias visitors. One man, named Elias, introduced himself as an envoy and welcomed the Trias party to the station. As they walked the corridors, the Trias team noted the station's sleek metal architecture, the hum of advanced systems, and the presence of technology that did not quite match the standard designs. Sensing the Trias' curiosity, Elias explained that humans had once participated in galactic affairs ages ago, but then withdrew. Over time, they developed their own civilization far beyond known territory. Now, after centuries of growth, they had chosen to return, When Trias diplomats asked if humanity intended to join any alliance or pay tribute to the existing empires, Elias simply replied that humans recognized no authority but their own. They wanted friendly ties, not subordination. That statement carried an undertone that unsettled the Trias. Yet, the humans did not appear hostile. They calmly offered trade talks and spoke of peaceful goals. Word spread fast. The Heron hegemony, upon hearing humans claim they would kneel to none, grew furious. Many Heron warlords were eager to test these newcomers in battle. The Azuri Ascendancy, meanwhile, expanded its infiltration efforts, sending stealth drones to gather data on Gateway Station. Yet the station seemed to have powerful sensors that detected and jammed the drones. This alone hinted that humanity had reached a high level of technology. In time, a galactic council invited the humans to a summit on Polaris Prime, a neutral planet where diplomats often met. Humanity accepted. A silver shuttle and 2 escort fighters arrived above Polaris. They landed, and out stepped a small group of humans, dressed in simple but elegant uniforms. Many onlookers whispered that these were the first humans seen in known memory, if you believed in those old myths at all. Inside Polaris Prime's Grand Hall, representatives from major powers gathered. A human named Kale spoke on behalf of her people. She reiterated that humans did not seek conquest, but refused to bow to any empire. She explained that humanity had spent centuries refining its science and society in isolation. Now they wished to rejoin the community as equals. The Heron official present demanded to know if that meant humans would ignore hegemony authority. Kale replied that humans recognized no authority but their own. The hall fell quiet. Tension rippled through the delegates. Eventually, the session ended without violence, though many left in a state of deep curiosity or concern. Returning to Gateway Station, the humans continued developing their small outpost, trading with a few smaller realms that ventured close. Trias established an embassy on the station. Researchers on both sides discussed possible exchanges of knowledge, though the humans kept the core of their technology private. The station's defenses and advanced power readings stoked countless rumors. Some claimed that humans could tear through the strongest fleets in the galaxy. Before long, the Heron hegemony decided to test those rumors. A small Heron squadron jumped into the system that housed Gateway Station, broadcasting a demand humans kneel or be destroyed. Humanity responded with a single warning: we do not seek conflict, but will defend ourselves. The Herons opened fire first. In seconds, the station's weapon turrets lit up, unleashing beams that hammered the Heron ships. A single human warship launched from a docking bay, moving so fast and striking so precisely that half the Heron squadron lay disabled. Shocked, the survivors retreated. That brief skirmish sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Many had assumed these humans were exaggerating. Now it seemed they possessed deadly technology and efficient tactics. The Herons did not let it rest. They assembled a larger force, including multiple dreadnoughts, to crush Gateway Station. Weeks later, this new wave arrived, but the result was the same. The station, supported by advanced human vessels, drove the invaders away again. The galaxy took notice. Smaller powers saw hope in the fact that someone could stand up to the hegemony. The Trias grew more eager to befriend humanity, impressed by their defensive prowess. The Azzurri grew more desperate to uncover the secrets of human tech. And the Herons stewed in anger. Humiliated twice, they vowed vengeance. Meanwhile, life on Gateway Station stayed busy. Ambassadors came and went, some from the Trias, some from smaller nations, each wanting a piece of the humans' growing reputation. Humanity remained firm. They welcomed peaceful contact, but refused to give away their most advanced designs to those who had not earned trust. In hidden shipyards far from the station, Admiral Pierce oversaw the construction of more vessels, each built to handle the worst the hegemony might throw at them. Some months passed. The Herons tried small raids on shipping lanes in human space, hoping to rattle the newcomers. Each raid ended in another Heron defeat. The humans seemed to have formidable drives and scanning systems, letting them deploy patrol ships quickly and catch the raiders off guard. Every failure fed Heron rage and left them scheming for a larger plan. During this same period, the Azzurri ascendancy took a subtler approach. They sent operatives disguised as traders or refugees to Gateway Station, trying to slip into restricted areas. Security, led by Brenna, caught them more often than not. Under interrogation, these agents admitted they were gathering data on the station's reactor and shield arrays. Azzurri leadership wanted an edge, fearful that if humans and the Trias ever united, the ascendancy might lose its place as a shadowy kingmaker. The Trias Commonwealth, meanwhile, began to see humans not just as a curiosity, but as a potential ally. High Chancellor Irali invited human representatives to Trias Prime for deeper talks. The Trias had a long history of diplomatic engagement, and they valued science. They admired the humans for their advanced capabilities and the fact that they did not press for territory. Over several meetings, the Trias and humans laid the groundwork for trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and even a possible defense pact. But everything remained informal at first. Then disaster nearly struck when the Herons targeted a newly established human colony called Arlos. This colony had only partial defenses, and the hegemony saw it as the weakest link. They jumped in with a sizable fleet, bombarding the colony from orbit and demanding surrender. Civilians huddled in bunkers, sending desperate signals to Gateway Station. Admiral Pierce scrambled a response, leading a task force that included a new flagship, the Vanguard. He raced to Arlos through slipstream jumps. By the time they arrived, the Herons had already done heavy damage to the colony's infrastructure. The shield generator was barely holding. Without swift action, the place would fall. The humans wasted no time. The Vanguard engaged the main Heron battleships, while smaller human frigates and corvettes cut off the raiders attacking the colony. In a furious exchange of weapons fire, the Vanguard unleashed powerful beams that shredded Heron armor. Though the Herons fought fiercely, they were once again outmatched by the precision and speed of human ships. Their flagship was destroyed in a blinding salvo, forcing the rest to retreat. Arlos was saved, but at a cost. Many colonists had been killed or wounded, and half the settlements lay in ruins. This close call shook the Confederation. They realized that while they had superior technology, they could not be everywhere at once. The Herons had come close to wiping out Arlos. Humans redoubled their efforts to fortify their outer colonies, setting up better shield grids and stationing small defense fleets in each region. News of the battle near Arlos stirred intense debate across the galaxy. The Herons had failed again, but they had shown the humans could be vulnerable if caught in the right place at the right time. The Trias Commonwealth offered humanitarian aid to the Arlos colony and pressed humanity for a deeper alliance, one that might deter future attacks. After some deliberation, the humans agreed that forging a strong bond with Trias made sense. Representatives of humanity traveled to Trias Prime, where Chancellor Irali hosted a series of negotiations. Over the course of several days, the two sides hammered out a defense treaty. They pledged to come to each other's aid if attacked, respect each other's sovereignty, and share certain technological breakthroughs for mutual benefit. It was not a total union, but it was a major step, and it marked one of the most important alliances the galaxy had seen in years. This alliance sent ripples through the empires. Smaller states realized that Trias and the humans together formed a serious bloc. The Herons, already furious, now saw two formidable foes cooperating. The Azuri, always lurking in the shadows, found themselves more determined than ever to break this union. They believed that if Trias and the humans stayed aligned, the Ascendancy would lose its ability to manipulate events behind the scenes. In clandestine meetings, Azuri operatives plotted ways to spark conflict between Trias and humanity or to weaken them separately. They considered sabotage, infiltration, or even forging a secret pact with the Herons. For their part, the Herons were reluctant to deal with the Ascendancy, which they viewed as sneaky and untrustworthy. Still, After so many defeats at human hands, some Heron warlords were open to any plan that might shatter the new alliance. As the situation grew tense, smaller powers reached out to the Confederation for protection. Many had been bullied by the Heron hegemony or manipulated by the Azuri ascendancy. Seeing humans stand up for Arlos gave them hope. However, humans could not sign defense pacts with everyone. They worried about stretching their fleets too thin. Admiral Pierce cautioned that they had to strike a balance, help those in dire need, but avoid overcommitting. On Gateway Station, the bustle continued. Diplomatic envoys arrived from minor realms, Trias ambassadors refined trade agreements, and security teams scanned for new spies. Elias walked the corridors daily, meeting travelers and listening to concerns. He felt the station had become the heart of a growing power structure, a place where humans shaped their destiny after centuries of quiet development. Meanwhile, the Heron War Council boiled with frustrated ambition. They decided that direct attacks on the core of human space were too costly. So, they shifted to hitting outlying targets, hoping to stretch the humans thin. They also considered stirring up rebellions in Trias border territories. A warlord named Varrock proposed a cunning approach: pay off discontented factions in Trias space to rise up. Then, when Trias forces were tied down, the Herons could launch a surprise strike on a key human colony. The plan required subtlety, not exactly the hegemony's usual style, but repeated defeats had taught them a harsh lesson. At the same time, the Azuri ascendancy made its own move, striking a key Trias industrial world with stealth operations. They aimed to sabotage jump drive factories, forcing Trias to divert resources to internal security. The attack caught Trias off guard. Azuri agents landed, disabled orbital defenses, and planted bombs in crucial facilities. Street fighting broke out on the planet as Trias forces scrambled to contain the infiltration. Desperate for help, Chancellor Urali called the humans. Under the new defense treaty, humans were obliged to assist. Admiral Pierce dispatched a task force that jumped into Trias space, using advanced scanners to track down cloaked Azuri ships. Working with Trias defenders, the humans cornered the Ascendancy raiders in orbit, destroying or capturing them. Meanwhile, on the surface, Trias Marines managed to neutralize most of the infiltrators. Though the Azuri sabotage was partially successful, the factories were not completely destroyed. Trias, with human backing, prevented a total catastrophe. This incident, however, pushed Trias to formally declare the Ascendancy an enemy state. Humanity, although not thrilled about taking on another adversary, stood by Trias. They had vowed to help protect each other. Across the galaxy, observers realized that two distinct blocks were forming. On one side stood the Trias, human alliance, determined to uphold mutual defense and resist bullying. On the other side lurked both the herons, with their hunger for conquest, and the Azuri, cunning in sabotage and infiltration. A handful of minor realms remained neutral or tried to play both sides, but it became clear that full-blown conflict might be coming. In the months that followed, tensions escalated further. The herons funded minor uprisings in Trias space, hoping to overextend the Commonwealth. Some of these efforts worked, causing local rebellions. But Trias intelligence uncovered many of them in time, preventing large-scale chaos. Humans sent advisors and small strike teams to help quell the worst rebellions, further uniting the two allies. At the same time, the Ascendancy doubled down on spy missions, occasionally targeting human colonies with sabotage. Station security on Gateway Station intercepted more undercover agents. Brennad multiple takedowns of saboteurs trying to tamper with the station's reactor. Each infiltration attempt that failed made the Ascendancy more desperate. They wanted human secrets, but the cost of repeated failures was high. While these cloak and dagger moves played out, Admiral Pierce and Chancellor Irali discussed how best to protect their domains. Some Trias generals suggested a preemptive strike on Heron space, hoping to intimidate the hegemony into backing off. Others, including Pierce, argued for a more cautious stance. Attacking might unite the Herons and the Azuri more closely. As the debate continued, smaller confrontations flared along the border regions. Heron raiders clashed with Trias patrols and occasional human ships. Azuri infiltration teams struck minor targets, only to vanish when cornered. The galaxy felt like a powder keg. Everyone wondered if a spark would set off a full-scale war that might engulf entire sectors. Eventually, that spark came from an unexpected place. A minor realm called the Sora Coalition, which had been paying tribute to the Herons, decided to break free and openly seek protection from the Trias human alliance. They believed that, together, Trias and humans could defend them against Heron retaliation. In exchange, the Sora offered mineral-rich worlds and advanced research stations they had kept secret. When news of this reached Heron leadership, it set off a firestorm. The Sora Coalition had been a steady source of tribute for the hegemony. Losing them was one thing, but losing them to the Alliance was intolerable. The warlords convened in their fortress on Heron Prime, each demanding swift punishment for such defiance. Varrock argued that, if they did nothing, other tribute-paying realms might follow suit. So, the Herons prepared for a major offensive, bigger than anything attempted before. Their plan was to strike Sora space before Trias or humans could dig in. Then quickly pivot to attack human colonies if Trias forces rushed to defend Sora. This strategy relied on speed and surprise, as well as the assumption that the Alliance could not cover both fronts simultaneously. The Sora coalition pleaded for immediate help, sending frantic messages to Trias Prime and Gateway Station. Trias and humans both scrambled fleets. Admiral Pierce divided his ships, dispatching one group to assist Sora directly while keeping another to guard key human worlds. Trias also split its forces, leaving some to patrol against Azuri raids. When the Heran Armada stormed into Sora territory, they met fierce resistance from Trias ships that arrived first. The fighting was brutal and chaotic. Sora had minimal defenses of its own, so the Trias Navy bore the brunt of the assault, suffering heavy losses. Then the human detachment jumped in. The combined Trias-human flotilla battled the Herons across multiple star systems, each side maneuvering to outflank the other. Back at Gateway Station, Admiral Pierce coordinated intelligence, trying to track Heron movements. Heron warlord Varrock, however, sent a separate strike force toward a vulnerable human colony, while the main Heron Armada kept Trias occupied. This gambit almost succeeded. That smaller strike force slipped past some frontier patrols and reached a planet called Valen, home to several million human settlers. Valen had decent orbital defenses, but not enough to hold off a dedicated Heron fleet. When sensors picked up the incoming threat, the colony governor ordered civilians into shelters and transmitted an urgent call for help. With so many human ships tied up, defending Sora or guarding other areas, it seemed Valen might be as vulnerable as Arlos had once been. Fortunately, the Alliance had established better coordination by this time. A Trias reconnaissance scout picked up the Heron strike force and relayed the info to Admiral Pierce. Pierce immediately redirected a portion of his reserves, including a newly commissioned battleship, the Aurora, known for experimental shield emitters and advanced beams. Racing at top speed, the small rescue flotilla headed for Valen. As the Herons approached the planet, they bombarded the orbital platforms, destroying some and crippling others. The ground-based missile batteries could not cover enough sky to repel the large attacking force. Civilians cowered in bunkers, recalling the grim fate that nearly befell Arlos. The Heron commander demanded unconditional surrender, threatening to level entire cities if refused. Then, at the 11th hour, the Aurora and her escorts flashed into orbit. The Herons, initially caught off guard, quickly formed attack lines. The Aurora unleashed a barrage of high-powered beams, slicing through a couple of Heron cruisers before they could react. Her escorts, mostly frigates and corvettes, hit the Heron flanks, drawing fire away from the colony. The orbital batteries that remained turned their guns on the distracted attackers, inflicting more damage. A vicious space battle unfolded. The Aurora traded devastating blows with the Heron flagship, which carried enough firepower to threaten any single human ship. But the Aurora's advanced shielding and precise aiming gave it an edge. Each time the Herons tried to surround the Aurora, her escorts darted in, harassing them and forcing them to break formation. After a grueling firefight, the Heron flagship took multiple direct hits to its core, causing catastrophic reactor failure. With its destruction, the rest of the strike force lost coordination. The humans and planetary defenses quickly mopped up the survivors. Valen was saved, albeit battered. The Heron plan to split the Alliance forces had not worked as intended, thanks to improved communication and faster slipstream travel by the humans. Meanwhile, in Sora territory, the main Heron armada also found itself stalled. Trias and humans fought them to a standstill across several systems. The Sora coalition, though lacking a real military, provided logistics and safe harbors for the Alliance fleets. Over many weeks of hard campaigning, the Herons failed to deliver a knockout blow. The conflict turned into a grinding series of engagements that bled Heron's strength. Realizing the offensive was not yielding the swift victory they hoped for, the hegemony began to pull back. Warlord Varric faced internal dissent. Zorak, the warlord who had led early attacks on Gateway Station, demanded a shift back to brute force. Others said they needed peace or a truce, as the Alliance was clearly too strong. The hegemony fractured into rival camps, each blaming the other for repeated failures against humans and Trias. During this chaos, the Azuri Ascendancy tried to exploit the situation. They attempted a stealth campaign against human colonies, hoping to sabotage manufacturing centers while the fleets were busy. But Alliance security had grown more vigilant. Time and again, Azuri agents were caught and neutralized. The Ascendancy grew frustrated, yet still refused to launch a direct war against the Alliance. They preferred subterfuge, though it was not bearing much fruit anymore. At last, seeing the tide turn against their various schemes, both the hegemony and the Ascendancy paused their offensives, each licking their wounds and pondering the next move. Countless star systems had seen battles. Many innocents had suffered. But the Trias, human alliance remained intact, if not stronger than ever. The smaller nations that had sided with them, like Sora, now looked to the alliance as a shield against future aggression. In the aftermath, Gateway Station thrummed with activity. Engineers expanded the docks to support more ships. Diplomats from newly secured territories arrived, wanting to formalize ties. Trias technicians worked side by side with humans to improve slipstream routes and fortify local networks. Cultural exchanges grew, letting people on both sides learn each other's languages, customs, and arts. Humanity, once forgotten, stood at the center of a fast, changing galaxy. In a private moment, Elias and Admiral Pierce walked along one of the station's observation decks. Through tall windows, they could see rows of ships, some Trias, some human, others from friendly minor states. Beyond them, stars glittered in the deep void. "We have come a long way," Elias said quietly. "Not too long ago, no one even believed Earth was real. Now we are shaping galactic politics." Pierce nodded, arms folded. "We still have a lot to protect. The Herons and Azuri are not done. They are just regrouping." Elias turned to gaze at him. "Right. But we are not alone anymore. Trias stands with us. Even smaller nations trust us. If the hegemony tries another big push, they will face an entire network, not just one station." Pierce allowed himself a small smile. "True. And that was always our goal. Right stand on our own terms. Protect those who cannot protect themselves." Elias gave a firm nod. "Yes. We do not want an empire. We just want freedom for ourselves and anyone who joins us willingly." Pierce looked back at the stars. "Maybe, someday, we can all find a real peace. But we will do what we must in the meantime." Across from them, in the docking bay, a Trias cruiser arrived, carrying fresh supplies and more travelers eager to see humanity's new frontiers. Beyond that, a line of warships waited, ready for whatever came next. Though the battles so far had proven the Alliance's mettle, no one doubted more challenges lay ahead. The Herons might unify under a single, more ruthless warlord. The Azuri might hatch a new grand scheme. Some other hidden power might emerge, testing the Alliance's resolve. Still, humans stood firm, just as they had declared from the start. "We do not come to conquer. But we will not kneel." No matter what storms would come, they would meet them together with their allies, forging a future in which Earth was no longer forgotten. Instead, Earth had become a beacon of resilience and unity. In a galaxy shaped by ancient empires, humanity had returned to the center of it all, prepared to fight for a vision of freedom among the stars. In the days that followed, reconstruction efforts picked up speed across various worlds touched by war. Arlos rebuilt its infrastructure, adding stronger defenses and refining its industries. Valen honored the fleet crew, who saved them at the last moment, erecting memorials to those who fought and died. Trias worked to bring rebellious border worlds back into the fold, while also sending relief to nations battered by Heron raids. On the Azuri side, a wave of internal debates arose. Some factions within the Ascendancy wanted to open cautious diplomacy with the Alliance, fearing that continued aggression would only lead to greater losses. Others insisted that the Ascendancy had to remain in the shadows, biding time for another strike. The intelligence networks in Alliance space reported that Azuri watchers were still active, but less brazen than before. Meanwhile, the Heron hegemony found itself in a downward spiral of political infighting. the repeated failures against humans eroded confidence in the older warlords. A few younger leaders rose, preaching either total war or a complete shift in strategy. Splits widened across Heron territory, with entire fleets refusing orders or forging their own alliances. For the Trias-Human Alliance, the uneasy stalemate was a welcome chance to fortify, recover, and plan for the future. Both partners boosted research programs, mixing Trias quantum communication crystals with advanced human reactor tech. New prototypes of ships and defense platforms were tested in remote sectors. Each success further strengthened the alliance, making it a more tempting partner for smaller states. Over time, diplomatic envoys from neutral realms, some previously aligned with the Herons or the Azuri, arrived seeking new ties with the alliance. They carried stories of how the old powers had bled them dry or forced them to fight in pointless wars. Now they saw hope in a group that stood by each other, that had driven off bullies time and time again. Elias found himself busier than ever, meeting delegates who wanted trade deals, migration pacts, or even membership under the Alliance's protective umbrella. Some humans felt wary, remembering that humanity had once been overlooked and even mistreated by older empires. They wondered if these minor states only wished to benefit from human power. But the general mood of the Confederation was that if forging a safer galaxy meant welcoming those who had suffered, they should do it, so long as no one demanded submission from Earth or Trias. While new ties formed, Admiral Pierce oversaw a steady expansion of the fleets. Each new battleship or cruiser came off the lines equipped with cutting-edge weapons. Defensive stations popped up in key systems, making it harder for any surprise invasion to succeed. Trias and human commanders coordinated, sharing patrol routes and code signals. The alliance was not perfect. Disagreements cropped up about resource allocations or chain of command. But each crisis so far had shown them they were stronger together. In a rare moment of calm, Pierce visited Earth itself, or what now served as the new Earth. The original cradle of humanity had changed drastically over the centuries, battered by climate upheavals and past conflicts. Much of the population had relocated to a planet called Sanctuary, which possessed Earth-like conditions, but fewer environmental challenges. Sanctuary became a cultural heartland for humans, a place of lush forests and shining cities. Walking through a memorial garden on Sanctuary, Pierce reflected on how far humans had come. Statues depicted ancient astronauts launching the earliest interstellar ships. Plaques told the story of how humans once ventured out, found a galaxy indifferent or even hostile, and then chose to withdraw and develop on their own terms. That time of isolation had allowed them to master technology that others had never imagined. Now they were back, forging alliances protecting colonies, and shaping the fate of entire star systems. Pierce found it both humbling and awe-inspiring. He thought of the battles yet to come. The galaxy was not at peace. The hegemony still loomed, and the ascendancy lurked in the shadows. But humans had proven they would not cower or yield. A Trias liaison arrived to escort Pierce to a ceremony. The Alliance was celebrating a new trade route that connected Sanctuary with Trias Prime, cutting travel time by half thanks to joint slipstream improvements. It was a small milestone, but one that highlighted the growing sense of unity. On stage, leaders from both civilizations spoke about shared dreams of progress, mutual defense, and exploration that would benefit all. Elsewhere, distant from these celebrations, the Azuri Ascendancy reviewed reports of its failures. There was a growing sense that the Ascendancy could not simply sabotage the Alliance into collapse. If they wanted to remain a major force, they would have to either negotiate or find a new advantage. Some Azuri saw the fracturing hegemony as a tool. Others wanted to approach the Alliance quietly, feeling them out for possible deals. In the hegemony, warlords continued to clash internally. One faction demanded launching a final, all-out crusade against the humans, throwing every resource into a do or die war. Another faction suggested retreating from expansionist policies, focusing on internal unity. Without a consensus, the hegemony remained paralyzed. Skirmishes persisted here and there, but no grand campaign emerged. Over time, a relative calm took hold. The Trias human alliance built up. The Herons bickered among themselves, though they did not vanish as a threat. The Azuri kept scheming, but lacked a decisive plan. Smaller nations flocked to the Alliance for stability and security. Some questioned whether the Alliance, now so large, might itself become an empire. The humans always answered that they had no desire to rule over others, only to ensure no one was forced to kneel. As the years passed, new trade lanes opened, knowledge spread, and entire sectors, once racked by war, began to thrive under Alliance protection. Conflicts flared occasionally, but the Alliance stood firm each time. While the future of the galaxy was far from certain, one truth had become clear. After centuries of being forgotten, Earth had returned with a message no empire could ignore. We do not come to conquer, but we will not kneel. And the stars, once indifferent to the myths of humanity, now trembled with the reality of Earth's resolve.